Welcome back to Coach Talk. Hi, LJ.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I am epic. I decided to just give you a phone call out of the blue because I had something that I thought about, and I thought I want to share it with you and our listeners. So this is going to be a quick podcast, but something that's been in my mind all morning. And I thought, you know what? I've got to call my HTBB and say, I have something to talk about.
I love it when we do these little short ones.
Yeah, me too. I think it's great that we can just over the phone and go, hey, how you doing? I have an idea, and we talk about it. And the best thing is we get to share this with all of our listeners.
Fantastic. So take me down the rabbit hole. What are we looking at today?
Here we go. I was thinking about a person that I coached many years ago, and I've reached out to this person and I asked her, could I share the story? And she said I could, which is great. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to go into specifics, but the background behind the result and the story speaks volumes. I'd like to share this with you and the listeners because I think it's important, and it might get someone thinking about maybe changing the way they think about some things. So are you ready?
Absolutely. Oh, I love mystery and intrigue.
I know you do. Okay, so here it is. I worked with a lady who ran a florist shop, and it was a nice florist shop. She had her own business and she was doing, I guess, okay. She wasn't doing exceptionally well, but she was doing enough to survive. But for some reason, business wasn't fantastic. So we got together, we did a bit of research, we talked about it, we sort of deep dived, and we talked about a lot of things, and we came up with something which was, I think, quite powerful. So she wanted some coaching and some perspective on why her business is, she said it was failing, and it was just over broke, I guess, if you wanted to say that, just over, she was just surviving. So we talked about a few things at the start, and one question I asked her in our process was, do you think you do a good job? And she said, oh, it's okay. And that for me was very interesting. So we moved from that and chunked it down to other stuff. And it got to the point where I said, do you think you actually make good product and you produce good product where people are happy to pay for it? And she said no. So in her mind, she didn't think that her stuff was good enough for her to sell at a price she wanted to sell it at. So she discounted everything because that was what she thought. She didn't think it was good enough. And her florist shop was sensational. It was lovely. She had the most beautiful flowers and potted plants, and it was wonderful. In her mind, she didn't think it was good enough for her to sell at prices that people would pay.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack right there, isn't there?
There's a lot to unpack with that. So we kept going a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, and it came down to the fact, which was a really important moment for her, and there was a little bit of emotion in this, is that she did not value herself.
Absolutely critical when you're in business.
Yeah. So her self-worth and her value in herself was not good, and that transposed to she doesn't think much of herself, which means anything she produces is not going to be good, and then therefore she won't charge what other businesses in a similar field charge. So she's losing money based on not the product and not what she's producing, but how she thinks about herself.
Yeah. And that's obviously, we've talked about this before, how the internal world really has a resonance on the external world. So that's so apt that her internal world really was shaping the shape of her business.
Absolutely. So I said to this lovely lady, I'm going to throw something out to you here, and I'm happy for you to accept it, or we can rejig it, we can do something else. At this point, I don't actually want to work with you on your business coaching. I want to coach you as personal growth and development. And let's work on the root cause of how you see yourself, your self-worth, you belong here, all of this. And let's see what happens after that. So we didn't actually talk about profit and loss. We didn't talk about statements, didn't look at the workings of that business. We looked at her as a person and her own values, her own beliefs, and herself. Over time, and it didn't take very long, she started to see more worth in herself and more value in herself. And we did a lot of values work, and we changed a few things with the way that she saw her world. And within 6 months, her business was booming. And this wasn't even looking at her books. It was just purely on the person alone. So it's so important to build up this resilience muscle and have a big, almost like a big bubble around you of protection, so you can handle the downfalls and the resilience. And when things are going well, you also celebrate and you feel good about it and you tell people about it. And it's a whole big package you carry with you. And her business within 6 months grew so much that she was putting someone else on, and she didn't do anything different apart from view the way that she walked into her shop, spoke to her customers, charged people the correct amount of what she put in with her work, and people were happy to pay it because her work was fantastic. It was just a backstory there of how something else was driving the loss in her business, and it wasn't her business itself. It was how she saw her own world.
Wow, I love you sharing that story with me and with our listeners, because we've always said, and we always believe, that when we work with our clients, it's about working with them and their own self-leadership to start with, because unless you can be the person that you are trying to attract, whether it be business, personal, friendship, family, we all need to start from that version of who we are, because we can't expect anybody to value us if we don't value ourselves.
Yeah, I like it. One question I asked her was, do you think your products are good enough? And she said, they're okay. And I said, do you think you're good enough to make these products? And she said, no.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's a whole other podcast there that we might be able to help and dive in a little bit deeper with, just to help somebody out there who's feeling the same.
She was conflicted in trying to make a business succeed, but not seeing herself as any worth or any importance, or what she could produce and sell to the public was not good enough. And that's all based on she thought she wasn't good enough. And a little bit of work, just a little bit, and suddenly her business, and to this day, her business is going really well. It's interesting, especially, this is a small business story, but I wonder, people out there that are dealing with their own small businesses or medium-sized businesses, if it's not going to plan, it's good to pull it apart and look at why. It may not just be profit and loss.
Absolutely. It's never about the figures. It's all about how you show up.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds a little bit wishy-washy on some respects, because there's a lot of business owners out there that go, of course it's about the figures, of course it's about attracting the client. The reason you need to have more value in who you are and what you show up and what you've got to offer is because you're not going to attract the people you want to attract to work with your goods and services if you can't start at home. Exactly what you were saying with your beautiful client.
Yeah, I love it. I watched her early in the piece with her customers, and she was so lovely, but you could see that she wasn't confident about herself. So you could see sometimes that her sales technique or her persona wasn't getting people over the line to maybe purchase things that they came in to purchase. And then when we worked on her and watching her evolve and change to walking up to people with confidence, knowing her product, knowing her shop, knowing everything, and actually creating a sales experience for her client and giving them an experience, and seeing her actually making it all about them, and good morning, how you going, what would you need, and what can I do for you, and in talking about their life. And it was a turnaround, and people went into her. Obviously you go into a florist store to buy something because you have an occasion or an event or something, so generally people are going to buy. So she's gone from being a little bit quiet and a little bit shy to, you're here, what can I do for you? I hear you, this is fantastic, you're going to love this, this is just what you need. And people loved being made feel special, and she did it really well, and she still had a good heart doing it, and there was no hard sell. It was just her being herself and being unique about it, but creating a lovely experience for the customer. And watching her do that was lovely. It was a great experience for all of us, and I'm so proud of her and so happy that within a few months she had lifted, and her business lifted with her.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
And in listening to what you've just said about how she changed her mindset, it really sounds like she created the experience that she would want if she was a client.
Absolutely.
And when she's come at it from that perspective, her whole outlook has changed on how she built relationships with the people who came into her store. Even if it's a 5 minutes, you don't know how much that 5 minutes of great conversations and taking an interest in making somebody else's day can actually change their world. We talk about the ripple effect a lot, and it's those small moments that actually add up to big things for many people.
Yeah, we talked a lot in an early podcast many, many moons ago about what you focus on is what you get.
Yes.
She was focusing on my product is not very good, my things are not very good, I don't feel very good, but she wanted profit and she wanted a successful business, but she was focusing on the negative, and that's what she got. And this is a great addition to an earlier podcast about she changed her focus to, I love what I do. I walk into my shop with a different attitude. I'm happy. I greet everybody. My job is awesome. My business is good. I feel great about myself. She changed the way she dressed. She improved that a little bit. She did a few little things along the way, and suddenly it had a ripple effect to her entire life, not just her working life in the florist shop. She changed so much in her entire life about how she showed up to her family, her friends, her social circles. She just evolved into something next level. And the whole thing was a joy. It was a great feel-good story. And yeah, it's sort of, I know we sort of go in circles sometimes with our coaching and we go back to earlier topics, and I like that because it reinforces things that we talk about. But this one here is she changed her focus and her whole life dramatically changed for the better.
The fundamentals and the foundations really do matter.
Yeah. So
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
you're welcome. That's it. That's just a quick podcast for today. And I thought, while it's in my mind, LJ, I'm going to call you and say, let's just have a quick chat about it, because it was something that I think is important for people to realize that even without making drastic changes in a small business or an adventure, a sporting venture, you can still make a lot of changes in your life by changing the way you think.
Absolutely. Can I give our beautiful listeners a challenge?
I think you should.
Okay, I love it. I love that we do this. So let's start really small. First of all, I mean, we've talked a lot about beliefs and values. So if you find that you're in this sort of situation where your world's not reflecting where you want to be and what you want to do, let's start really small and write down all the things that you value and then all the things that you believe. Now, it's really important for two reasons. One, it's great to look on paper because then you actually start to hierarchy your beliefs and your values, so you can find your top five. But more importantly, then look at your list once you've done it from a perspective of, where did that come from? Is it truly mine, or is it something that I've just accepted and taken on? Because quite often we're the product of the environment we're around, and we do absorb beliefs and values that aren't necessarily ours, but we believe that they are. So I'd love our lovely listeners to start with just that really small task of working out your values and your beliefs, and then are they truly mine, or are they just ones I've accepted because of the environment I've been around? And working on then the list that is truly yours and focusing on that, see how your world changes.
That's a great challenge, LJ, because the power, and we've talked about this as well before, the power of writing something down instead of just thinking about it. Writing it down and then looking at it, it's amazing how much we can retain when we put pen to paper. And I still love the old-fashioned, and we do it in coffee shops, and we still do strategic planning, writing things down.
Absolutely.
That's a great challenge. And when people take a moment, get a cup of tea going, a biscuit if you need to, or for me, maybe some chocolate, start writing things down, and you can go back and refer to it, and it implants in you and you remember things. And that's a great challenge. I like it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for your share. I look forward to some of you sharing how that challenge set you up for change in your world, and just what you noticed, and just how it affected you to do something that's so inwardly focused, because it is really, really important that we know more about ourselves and how we show up.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Uncle Dave. Always an absolute pleasure to go down a rabbit hole with you.
Thanks, LJ. We'd love to hear from all of you. And until next time, we will talk to you later.
Have a fantastic week, everyone.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, it's LJ and Dave here. Thank you so much for listening to the latest podcast.
We love what we do, and we know you get something great out of each and every publication.
So don't forget to jump on the website, coachtalk.com.au, leave us a message, let us know what you're up to, what you're enjoying, what you're loving most, and what else you'd like to see us do.
You can also find all of our content on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Apple Music.
Coachtalk.com.au is the website.
Coach Talk. We've got you.